Hey, everybody, welcome back into the Horseshoe Lounge at Roosters. This is the podcast. It's a fun, casual joint and a fun, casual chat about the Ohio State Buckeyes. They are through 4 practices of training camp. That's when it's about to get real. That's Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. That's when those pads start to come on. Now we're talking ball, right, Bob?
That's real football.
That's right.
Yeah, finally. The first 2 days we're on shells, little pads on Saturday. It's Sunday off, move-in day. Got to get them off. And I think Ryan's like, hey, the goal was to try to make this week as much of a grind as you can possibly make 2022 training camp be. 1 practice a day, limited by 2 hour, 2.5, whatever it is on field.
Isn't that nuts? I mean, when we were there, we came in a week early and had 2-a-days, just our freshman class.
Yeah. No 2-a-days allowed
before 3 weeks of camp. Like, it was incredible.
We practiced 13 out of 14 days. The only day that wasn't a 2-a-day was that Sunday because Trust gave us the morning off to worship somewhere.
Now, it's not like going uphill both ways through the snow barefoot.
It's
not
real.
just because the rules have changed.
Yeah. I mean, we were in the middle of that. It was about, our sophomore year, I think.
And then the next year, that was the last year, and then they went to no consecutive 2-a-days in a row, which was terrible, and then we just waste time. They really weren't set up for the sports side. Like now, I understand that. I think there's still a place that they should probably be able to have a handful of 2-a-days. And you know what? Maybe have 1 week where you can go every other day just to develop some sort of toughness and understanding of that.
The grind of camp. I mean, these kids don't know what the grind of camp was like. Now we sound old when we say,
it's funny though, all these kids, to a man, if you talk to the guys on this team, they'll say this offseason was the hardest one of the Ryan Day era to this point.
Good.
But it's still significantly less than what you guys had to deal with 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even when Urban got here, first the mat drills and everything else, that was a big deal. These guys are out there just basically in a blood sport, fighting each other for the day.
Outside in the cold,
Yeah, outside. I mean,
could you imagine that?
If he would have
lost half his team if the transfer portal was
there's the term Zoom babies I've heard used about kids like these guys in high school. They're taking history class in their bed, laying there looking at their phone, TV on in the background, probably have a pizza box beside them. And that's 9:30 or 10 in the morning. That was life.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good, actually.
Yeah. Where do I sign up for that Zoom?
Girl beside him or something. Who knows what might be coming on?
Instead of trudging through the snow in Laramie at 8 in the morning. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's real. Let's talk about a real grind. That's where it's at. Nicole, unfortunately, couldn't be with us this week. She'll be back next week. In her honor, of course. We're
still recovering from Hawks event.
Well, there's a lot going on. Just got to get ready for the actual season, and we're easing back into it.
That's right.
Not here in the Horseshoe Lounge.
Nope, that's fine. Thank you.
And so, without her, we'll still go ahead and pick out some Buckeye leaves. Guys through 4 practices. Maybe something you've read, Jay-Z. Maybe something you've seen, Bob. Something that we have done both of those things perhaps through the first couple days. A lot of access early in camp, a little bit more than maybe we're used to.
Is that right?
I mean, 2 mornings of viewing, and now 3 interview sessions through the first 4 practices.
It's been a lot of interviews. I know that.
The percentage is about to go down dramatically, but for a starting point, I love it. Bob, who has jumped out? Let's start with you.
Goodness.
Before Jay-Z says mine.
Well, here's the problem. Because a lot of these guys change numbers.
Yeah.
And I kind of got used to some in the spring, but some of them had some other changes too. And I'm trying to figure out who is who. It's crazy. So as I'm running through my mind, I'm like, I literally had to pull out. They gave me a program, a roster list of who everybody was.
Figure everything out, the new numbers.
Who was looking good out there, what they were doing. What? Oh goodness. I think Pryor's done a pretty good job.
Okay.
They've worked him out of the backfield a little bit. He's got good ball skills. He looks like he's moving really well. He's not quite as big as Henderson, but and believe me, this was all in 1 day in pads, and then that was more of a pass emphasis day. Now they're getting to the run stuff, but I thought he looked really good. And as we've talked, Henderson and Mayan being kind of the hammers maybe, and then maybe working Pryor in more as maybe that off speed, especially passing downs. I thought he handled himself very well and looked good running routes out of the backfield.
We saw some of that last year with him, right? I mean, towards the end of the year, he was getting in and getting some play and just kind of thinking, it's wow, okay, well, we do have 3 guys back here.
He has a totally different gear than the other guys do in a straight line speed. So you have to find ways to utilize that and get him out in the passing game. And we even saw, last week they were running him 10, 12 yards down the field on passing routes and not just out of the backfield. So,
but if you throw him a swing pass, that could still go a pretty long way.
Well, that's the kind of guy where when you mentioned that, I remember back when our junior year, we had Teddy Ginn, really fast guy. And we'd kind of just get him. He was in the backfield, but not in, the box. Nice little sweep pass to him. If we know we have numbers out there, we can get him on the edge and get him running. So maybe they, look at something like that this season to get prior to the ball, because he is quick, and we saw last year a little bit. He looks like he can be a playmaker, and you're going to have bumps and bruises. So having three guys that you can trust to take that rock in the backfield is huge. You want me to go ahead and do mine, or does Burn want to go?
No, go ahead, please.
Well, I read something this morning. Now, you guys, it may not be right. It may only be because they're younger and they want.
Well, if you read something and I wrote it, it was definitely right, Jay-Z. I don't
know if you wrote it. I don't know who wrote it. To be honest, I didn't.
I heard you have a ghostwriter.
The power of the internet.
The power of the, there's just so much stuff on there.
Don't spill all the secrets, Mom.
And maybe I didn't read it correctly, but are the two young guys starting at end right now, or is this just an early camp? We're throwing this. We're seeing what rotation we like.
Well, on day one, Jack Sawyer was at the front of the line on one side, and at the other was Javante Jean-Baptiste. Now, Friday, that was different, and JT Tuimoloau was up front, and Jack Sawyer was out there. I don't know that we can read that much into it.
Fair enough. What I read into that anyways is these guys are young. Yeah. They're stepping it up. They want to be in the front. They want to be the guys that they're leaning on here this season. Now, take it for what it is, I guess. But when reading that, I'm thinking, all right, these guys are true sophomores, stepping it up. They're leading that group or wanting to lead that group. And, I think that's huge because we are going to need that defensive line, ends and inside, to have a really big year, I think. So, seeing the young guys doing that and, getting that leadership feeling, I think it's huge going into the season.
How often did that happen for you all where we assume that you're at the front of the line and then you go line up with the first team during those open periods of practice? We don't see everything that happens after that. Some of that we have to rely on other means of information. Like, were there times that you guys remember, like, maybe this guy just gets one day. He gets to be with the ones.
I feel like typically for us, as quarterbacks, all right, we're throwing wideouts. All right, you had the guys that you were going to probably be throwing to in practice first in line. And I don't know, there's not a made-up line. Hey, you go first, you go second. It's just kind of people get in where they fit in, and you figure it out. And that group knows, all right, I'm not going to say anything about this. They're going first. They're the starter, type thing. So, we kind of did that on the offensive side of things. Defensively, I imagine it's more of a hodgepodge.
It was just kind of a little bit of a hierarchy when you're going through warm-up lines and different things. The leaders of the group, typically that's your older players, would be out in front. And then the thing is, like with our classes, we had a lot of guys leave all of a sudden. So then you're juniors, and so some people just kind of thrown into that role. But that was just kind of how it was. The coach may work a guy in here, show him there. But a lot of times what you're seeing is what you're getting. But a defensive line, they roll so many guys. Yeah. But I will say this, like Jack Sawyer for the Jack position, he is by far the best equipped, I think, to be able to play on 2 feet and do everything they're asking him to do, because it's a little hybrid linebacker. They drop, I'm in the middle, they're moving him around. You go back and watch, this isn't some revolutionary thing. You can watch Jim Knowles' tape of Oklahoma State. Like, that's what he did.
That's what that position's going to do.
Like, sometimes in the middle, sometimes on this side, sometimes he runs and they'll hold it and they'll slide over. Like, that's what they did in tape, and Jack does a really good job of that, just by virtue of like what he did in high school, playing quarterbacks and tight end, like moving around. You can tell he was a very natural guy, just being in the 2-point stance.
I think when you're dealing with some guys lead from behind, like every pregame.
Oh, leading from behind.
Yeah, absolutely. So
that's a big slogan I heard you like.
Interesting
every
concept.
Pregame, like the wide receiver line last year, Chris Olave would be like the last guy to go. Right.
Chris is just like more of a laid back.
And that's what JT Tuimoloau is. So like when you see him as the third guy in line, it's not a situation where he's feeling like he's pressed to go up there first. I think for this defensive line to be its best, those two guys have to be the best. Right?
They have to play the most.
Yeah, that's what I think. So I don't know what matters where they line up in practice or what rep they're taking. We know that come September 3rd, those two have to be the guys.
And the coaches know as well, right?
And they have to be the vocal leaders.
We'd have Daryl Hazel come and be like, hey, Jay-Z, you good with her? You're Troy. You get with him, run this route. They want to see certain guys do certain things, and they might step in then. But
I think what's interesting about this defensive line group and the way it's going to be handled is that when they left spring, And you saw the guys who started in that game, which were the veterans with Javonte Jean-Baptiste and Zach Harrison, and then the way that Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau played. I think there was some give and take there where Jim Knowles, as the overall architect of the defense, sees something and wants something. And Larry Johnson has historically wanted his veterans to be the first two guys out there, to build around them. And you can say that the body of work, that they've earned it, they're physically mature, and all those other things. And that's fine. And he may start both of those guys on September 3rd. I don't know. But that's what's interesting about this camp to me is that both Sawyer and GT have, I think, much higher ceilings. And what we're talking about over the course of the year, even if they're not officially starters, they're going to have to play the most.
I agree.
Okay.
Totes.
We're going to
Totes
you have some other five other guys?
I mean, the steal line from Clint Eastwood.
Okay.
Deserving ain't got nothing to do with it.
Oh.
All right?
Got it.
I mean, I wanted to make sure I got that right out of the Unforgiven.
We're sure if the G was on the end or not. You got to be deserving.
Deserving ain't got nothing to do with it. So we can talk about is it earned, is it this, is that.
Yeah.
Like, best dudes are out there. And the thing is that the Jack, it's different than the other D-line positions because it's more of a unique skill set. And I think Jack Sawyer is the guy who probably fits it. And he, honestly, personality-wise, you guys talk to all those guys, he's probably the most gregarious and, like, big.
Jack is a football dude.
He's a dude's dude.
But he's
got a big personality.
He's a lot like you in the fact that he.
Oh, that's an apt comparison. Actually,
he's willing. He lives football and he wants to talk about football. Some of these guys don't. I mean, it's not a knock on Zach Harrison to say he doesn't want to just sit around and shoot the breeze and talk ball with us. Like, he has other interests, and that's fine too. But Jack Sawyer, you ask him to do any conversation at any point, he's all in for that. And he is like you in that regard, and that can be a very good thing. That's a compliment.
Can be.
Talk to somebody.
It can be if he's correct.
He also takes his shirt off a lot.
Did Vern talk to those guys like about Fortnite?
Bobby gave him the
like
playbook.
A little bit.
You're a freshman now.
amazing.
Take your shirt off at all times.
I think that guys like Jack, I mean, he is so perfectly primed for this new era of college football to be
Fluffed.
Exactly. Right. That. The guy he really gets it. He understands the media. He understands that he's representing not just himself, but his family and everything that he does. And I think that's why you see him start to sort of emerge as the leader of that defensive line, even no matter who's the starter on September 3rd. While we're still on this conversation, I think Ty Hamilton is certainly a guy we've talked about a couple times on the podcast in the last few days. I was asking about him with Enoch Vamahi on Monday, and they said Ty's just a different guy right now. He just has a much different confidence and a much different sort of way he's carrying himself. And I think that it's obvious when you watch him in practice. This kid who his brother played at Ohio State, he sort of had the opportunity to come in under the radar because he was a 3-star, nobody cared, he was a local guy. But he looks like he's in a position to take over and be one of the two go-to guys at defensive tackle. And if that happens, that's a major win for the Buckeyes because physically he is much different than the Teron Vincent, who's a little smaller in stature and a guy that's a little different style. I think if you can get that 6'3", 310-pound body in the middle, it changes things.
It's tough too.
Yeah.
Both him and his brother were really tough. Like watching them play at Pickerington, like skill aside, like you can see toughness in those guys, and they're battlers, man, and that's good because you need dudes like that up front.
I think you would have to have that in Dejuan Hamilton's case, the older brother, because it took him 5 years to become, an NFL draft pick and someone who he was really a wrecking ball for that defense that year, and that hasn't been quite the same. Somebody with that body type that could do the things that he did the last couple of years. That's all part of it.
Can I get Berm excited?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Fluff it up.
Your boy Cam, he got a pick the other day in practice.
Cam who?
Exactly. I yelled at him. I was like, Berm's going to be so happy. He looked at me and smiled. He was so pumped.
Look at the blood rushing.
Here's the thing.
He is so happy.
He's like, Uncle Jeremy? He's
I
the
think
best.
Jeremy's like, don't get giddy. Don't get giddy.
Uncle Jer.
Uncle Jer.
I love stories like Cam Martinez because that's a kid who did not really believe he belonged at Ohio State a year and a half ago. And so to see him sort of get comfortable and get into the position where he's now able to feel confident playing the position that he never played his entire life, there's a huge element of risk for a player like that who could have went to other schools and played quarterback or played wide receiver or done the things he'd always done. But when you take that chance, you say, I'm going to go to a place where maybe I don't know that I belong, and you come into a brand new position, you come in the middle of COVID, and everything else went on. It's just crazy to watch all these kids on that track and that trajectory.
But mostly
develop. But it's great to see Cam because he's a great kid. I root for great kids. Root for great kids.
I honestly thought that was going to go much longer. I thought you were just helping me out.
I root for great kids, man.
What I find most unusual is when I go on the road with Berm and we meet these kids. We met the Martinez crew when we were preparing for his commitment a few years ago, and Cameron Martinez's parents are like, "Oh, nice to see you, Jeremy."
Exactly.
We've loved getting to know you,
They were
Jeremy.
actually playing Jeremy by Pearl Jam.
And I'm like,
Jam
who in the world is Jeremy?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
You have to be able to play both roles.
Yeah, so
But you're just Berm,
Yeah, I mean,
to everyone,
Oprah.
to everybody.
One word.
I'll be whoever you guys
Prince.
want me to be,
McLovin.
man. It's fine with me. I'll do whatever.
It's cool. Tell you what, I've talked for a year, and I've talked to this player in particular about some of the weaknesses in his game. He's a huge personality and a huge human, and when we talk about the speed rush, difficulties that Dejuan Jones had a year ago, hasn't hid from it. I love the fact that he came back. He dedicated himself to losing a little bit more weight. The target goal was 364. He hit it.
He hit it today.
Isn't that amazing? Think about it. His target weight to get down to was
and that's
360.
roughly 35 pounds. So I told this story on Snap Judgments earlier on Monday. Bob, they went in. This is for you and Schlegs. I know you love this. They went in after a practice. They were working out, getting a lift in with Mick, and they put a 35-pound weight on Dejuan's back for a plank. That's what you used to weigh. That's what you had to do. And he's like, I never want to be in that again. And so the way that he handles his business,
Eat this pizza.
the way that he's come
Pizza on my back? What is it?
because we saw this, we've told this over and over. Jack Sawyer beating him several reps over and over to the start of camp last year. It's like, ooh, is that going to work with Dejuan Jones at right tackle? Because you can easily put Thayer Munford there. You could put Paris Johnson there, and we thought that maybe they would. It didn't go perfectly for Ohio State, obviously. I'm not saying that that's Dejuan Jones' fault. There's lots of other changes that were made. But just to see him physically, to know what he's dealing with emotionally after losing his turtle on Sunday.
Oh, no.
Lost his turtle?
His turtle died on Sunday.
It's unfortunate.
I just really like what Dejuan Jones is doing. And you can see the development.
What's wrong with these dudes, man? Like, why does he have a turtle?
Well, he doesn't now.
Well, he had a turtle.
I had a roommate who had an alligator one time. That poor thing. Chad Hubler.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
My brother had
Yeah.
What did happen? What did he do?
He might still be at 40 King Avenue.
So
It's down there in the sewers.
He's under the deck at the house.
my brother,
We lived it.
they had an alligator at Marshall, and they had it in the weight room. And my brother took it, they had to get it out because it was too big, and I guess they had an issue with it. Someone else had
An issue, yeah.
Well,
What's that against an
so-
alligator?
So he
There's a
he
freaking
took it
alligator
back,
in there, man.
and then he got it, and he was throwing it in his basement. He had a bathtub, or a big pool down there. And this sucker got to 4.5, 5 feet long. I mean, my brother started breeding the rats to feed it because it was so expensive. And then one day he goes, I think he was leaving or something. He goes, I couldn't take care of it anymore.
The alligator was leaving?
No, my brother was he's going to go.
Who's
going to stop
His girlfriend at the time, he's like, we're not moving this with us. We're not just going to let it live in the basement. And so they taped its mouth shut. One of the dudes lived in Florida. He goes, dude, when you're driving, put it in the back seat right there, and they drove. And he goes, dude, when you get out, razor blade the side and just let him run into the Everglades.
Oh, my God.
I would.
His name was Irwin.
I think Irwin,
Or Steve.
after 13 hours in the car with duct tape on his mouth, he probably wasn't too happy. So I'm not sure I would have been in a big hurry to actually take him.
What year was this? And
2014,
Make sure the statute of limitations is passed.
15, 16.
wait, so this is when social media existed and this
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
recorded
Oh, yeah.
the entire time?
Yeah.
Your brother missed a major opportunity.
Oh, I know.
That would have been a hell of a story to watch unfold on Periscope.
Twitter.
He was the only one that was big enough and not scared to
Massacre in the weight room at West
People
Virginia.
were once-
Wherever, Marshall, yeah.
People once breathlessly followed Berm's coverage of a cricket on his car. So if you put an alligator in the back seat,
Cricket
that
on the
sounds-
car.
I had
that one.
a grasshopper that was on my car when I left home one morning on my driver's side door.
Michigan grasshopper.
Yeah.
Oh,
And he
brought
rode
that
with
to
me
Ohio?
all the way to Columbus.
He wanted to immigrate.
Oh, he was trying to get.
This dude rode on my car for 2.5 hours and stayed on my door the entire time. It was unbelievable.
Some great grip.
Especially with that car. You're probably getting it on the highway.
Yeah, it was
he had the wind
unbelievable.
Going through his antennas.
It was a good story.
People loved it.
Yep.
An early morning ride with the grasshopper.
Greeny.
Oh, you named him.
He got him.
Had to.
Till he left. R.I.P. to Greeny and Terry the Turtle. Hey, Bob. Appetizer Tuesdays.
Ooh.
Yeah, Appetizer Tuesday. So the featured appetizer is just $2 for Tuesday. And judging if you're looking around,
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
obviously someone already ate some of these
I'm going
guys.
to take a guess.
I wonder who that could be.
Yeah, Berm.
Well, the hot sauce is open, so I see it. I see it's Berm.
It was
me.
Jeremy.
Jeremy.
Jeremy, my boy.
Mac and cheese bites, $2 all day long. Appetizer Tuesday at Roosters. They're delicious. They're tasty. Fried on the outside, gooey mac and cheese on the inside. If you ever want to eat mac and cheese with your hands, this is how you
Remember
do it.
when we couldn't get those?
Oh, well, I know he does.
In a worst time in the world.
Yeah. I mean, of all the things that went wrong during COVID.
Now we're just looking at plates of them, and it's what a sight.
copious
What a sight to
amounts.
see.
We've returned. We're back.
We're back. When you've got no supply issues, no COVID, and you can just
You got
bathe
mac and
yourself,
cheese bites and yeah.
throw them up in the air. Make it rain mac and cheese bites. That's Appetizer Tuesday. That'll be tomorrow. This is the Horseshoe Lounge. It's Roosters. It's a Monday. We're talking about Ohio State football. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back into Roosters. We are talking about Ohio State training camp. 4 practices in for the Buckeyes. And the guy that I found, non-player that has been the most fascinating to me has been Justin Fry. The impact that he's made as a very hands-on, very active, very aggressive coach. I don't mean this to be any sort of comparison to what happened before. That's not the point that I'm trying to make. We don't know what the results will be by the time training camp is over. But there's a marked difference between what Justin Fry and the graduate assistant Mike Solin has brought to that unit. It's been fun to watch. I'm curious for you guys' perspective, when you have maybe a coaching change or someone who actually gets in and does some drills with you, how impactful that can be.
I think it matters. And I think it's just a different style. Stuff's a little bit different. He's more older, a little laid back. I mean, you get loud when you need to, but I mean, Fry, he played against me. He was playing offensive line at Indiana. Right. Now, not well, but he was out there playing.
Oh, jeez.
Well, those who can't do, teach.
Those were his words. He goes, he and AJ ran through there. He's like, dude, so why don't you block him? He goes, too fast. I couldn't get there.
We tried.
I tried. But he's awesome. I've loved talking to Justin. And you can see the energy and like how hands-on he is with the guys. He's a little bit younger. He'll hop down in there. And I think, you're going to see the presence of what he's doing and like some schematic things a little bit, but then technique-wise and really I think just the development of players and just sometimes you got to have guys like in a good way, just always there and always on to get you going.
Well, I mean, even talking with somebody about the defensive staff, it's kind of that way. Like they're really hands-on. They're teaching in different ways than they had in the past, and I think that's what he's bringing to this. And I think it's a huge portion of what's going on right now. Just what he's brought to the table. What is going to be different? Is the offensive, is the run game, the scheme going to be a little bit different, or is he just going to kind of go off the backs of what they've done last year?
Yeah.
But I think bringing that in is huge. I think when we were in school, I saw it firsthand. Daryl Hazel. We didn't have a real receiver coach. Tress and Joe Daniels kind of did both, quarterback and receiver. So once Daryl Hazel came in, I could see it. I mean, just the attention to detail, just the little things that he was able to do in the receiver room that made them that much better. Not that the guys before weren't doing that stuff, but every practice it was attention to detail, and that guy. What was hardcore?
Run that back at Cinnamon City.
Yeah, I mean
the Delta Force.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then exactly. So I mean, it can bring that new life in, and the attention to detail is just something different that maybe you weren't getting in the past, and you are now, and it really makes you dial in on your craft.
It's amazing. Is Coach Tressel hired a black version of himself?
Yeah.
He literally just
with his terrible bent hats. He would bend his hats just so badly. I think just being weird.
Yes.
Just to have people say, "Why do you?"
Why did he tuck in his pullovers into his
pants?
No one tucks a pullover is meant
It's got to be loose.
To be
gotta
loose.
be loose.
He
You gotta
would
let it
tuck
flow.
that in
Yeah.
and then have the hat. I think it was I think his dad was in the military. Or something.
Maybe.
And it was like
It would make sense.
what he did, but I mean his attention to detail and just how he looked. He's Jim Tressel to the T. It was amazing.
but I mean, it was huge for those guys, and I saw it then. So and he went on to do great things. Moved on and got a couple head coaching jobs. But so I think Justin's big addition, and I'm really excited to see. The other big question there is how's that second group coming along? That's going to be the big question. If we can keep everybody healthy this season, great. But how it goes, bumps and bruises along the way. Are they going to be able to step up?
Well, we talked about Justin Fry in January, very much in the same breath that we talked about Jeff Hafley when he was introduced at Ohio State in 2019. We're like, wow, this is a different type of assistant coach. And we all knew that Jeff Hafley was going to be very short-lived in his tenure at Ohio State because he was too good to be just a defensive coordinator for very long. It was obviously even quicker than we ever imagined.
Much quicker than we thought.
And you think with a group that has 5 potential draft picks on it starting this year on the offensive line, Justin Fry is in a position similar where if they go out and really dominate and he's able to show a marked improvement from that group, that this is a guy who could be in line for offensive head coaching type opportunities in the next year. And I want to
take over at Indiana when that job opens.
Yeah, I want to be clear about how I say this, but some of that is because he's really good at his job. Some of that is just understanding that they now have an offensive line that is 5 guys playing where they should play. And so if there is a substantial difference in what we see on the field, I think some of that just goes to the credit of saying, these guys are guards and they're going to play guard. Last year was so much experimenting and so many just trying to almost be too cute and outsmart yourself a little bit. Yeah. And they're
Everyone
now.
says we're going to get our best 11 on the field,
Right.
but sometimes it's the fit of the best
gotta be
11.
the fit, and with the offensive line, that's huge. Those guys really get to know each other. And when you're inside and you're needing that guy on the outside to do exactly what he's, it's a real group.
It's like a vegetable soup. Okay, you got to have all the vegetables playing well
A
together. A medley, if you will.
vegetable.
And to steal something my brother.
Who's the baby corn?
Well, the pea is small.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't think they would add a whole lot of flavor. And that's what my father-in-law told my brother-in-law. And he goes, okay. And then when he wasn't looking, my brother-in-law dumped a box of lemon heads in, and that changed the flavor markedly different. And he goes, why did you do that? He goes, well, the lemon heads, they're small. They couldn't really provide much flavor. How could it possibly make that much of a difference?
Wow.
So there you go.
This sounds more like an ancient Chinese proverb than something that actually happened.
Ruining
a whole
That's like a parable from
Is
that Proverbs or Psalm?
ruining a vat of vegetable soup.
It's vegetable soup, so it's already ruined. Because there's just a bunch of vegetables in there.
Because you're just
They're vegetable soup. When I say vegetable soup, there's always some meat in there.
Okay.
Is Luke Whippler the lemon head or the pea?
I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. Because it didn't taste very good after the lemon head was in there. But sometimes I think the pea, though small, yet can be underrated.
Once you get pea in your soup, you just have to throw it out.
He's the lemon perfect.
Lemon perfect.
Yeah, that's what he drinks and endorses for NIL. Well, I was going to ask.
Let's ask you guys, now that he brought up NIL.
Let's do that.
Let's bring in the Southpaw. What is the one product in college that you wish you could have endorsed?
That's easy.
Go ahead.
Easy Living Deli. That would have been my thing. I'd have worn. I'd had Easy Living Deli from head to toe.
Vlad head to toe.
Vlad head to toe. Well, Macedonian love right there.
Are we going with current restrictions?
No, you can't have natural light.
Whoever the limo company was.
We'd have been Miller Lite guys.
What were the restrictions?
No booze.
No
gentlemen's clubs.
No wacky tobacco.
I don't think that was
No,
it.
gentlemen's clubs, was it?
It seemed like they changed the restrictions to just hard liquor.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. Well, because the university has it.
So no spirits.
Yeah.
No spirits and no wacky tobacco.
And no gambling.
No gambling. But, gentlemen's clubs are involved. Maybe even
Rolling up the hotel check-in with vanity hat on.
be drunk, get a Hims deal, going on.
Uh-huh.
The firmer the better. I don't really need, then my hair line was a little better, so I probably wouldn't need that stuff.
You would have had hair products back in the day.
You three.
I can keep my hair shiny with this
Yes.
product.
Those silver bullets would have had a Head and Shoulders deal or something like that.
100%.
Definitely not great clips. Fantastic
else?
Sams.
No.
Obviously Roosters. I think we'd have to say.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, yeah. I mean,
Get some Roosters going.
we only got Roosters on like special days back when we were in college. Like, oh, spring game's over. Everybody's going to Roosters. Like not nowadays where they get fed on Sundays.
Right. What would you have wanted?
Man, that's a good. I don't know. I don't think about that stuff. I would always.
You
of course,
obviously were thinking.
I was thinking about it for these guys because they were real athletes. I was a baseball player. I would have
We have
liked.
endorsement opportunities.
I would have liked like Coke Zero, of course. Zeros are the way to go for me. I would have certainly
You got
dove
cut
in
the Coke
there.
out.
Is that a
Um,
Rick James Coke Zero?
Yes,
or-
yes.
Okay.
No, but
that's against the rules.
find me whatever the best taco shop is on campus. I think would have probably been the spot for me because I do have an affinity for tacos.
Okay.
Taco Bell.
I mean, if that's what I had to
Just
choose,
say,
I
get
think
that,
that's the only
that
one.
sweet. Get that.
Oh,
Yeah.
another one, Adriaticus. I would have pumped them hard.
I would have. If I was here, I think I would have been more Tommy's. I was more of a Tommy's guy.
Oh no,
Okay.
Adriaticus every Sunday.
I would have got the Jack Sawyer deal from Riker and get that. Sweet.
Well,
It's 42 soup jacked up truck.
So Luke Whippler came into hotel check-in with making sure he was holding this lemon perfect bottle
Yeah.
just correctly. Had the T-shirt
That's
on.
great.
See, other guys like C.J. Stroud and Jackson Smith and Jigba are making much more money. But Luke Whippler, he's giving the most bang for the buck.
He's working
man.
hard.
He's working for his
Yeah,
partners.
I like it.
Placement was there. Like he was walking out after we were doing a podcast, and we were trying
So
to figure.
thirsty. Just somehow
we were trying to
it
figure
feels
out-
delicious.
Hold on, guys. 1 second. I'm so thirsty.
We were trying
Sorry,
to figure
it's
out
a long walk.
Yeah.
We weren't sure what it
So
was, so we
hot
were
out
like,
here.
"Hey, Luke, come explain it." And
Milk
he gave
was
like a
bad.
perfect pitch. I mean, it was lemon perfect.
Lemon perfect.
Yeah, it was really good, and
Mixes probably great with some vodka.
he's
I bet it does.
which you cannot have an NIL deal for.
No, but you
Well,
could
he
maybe-
can't say
Buckeye
that.
vodka. It's very well done.
I'm with you. I mean, no spirits though. But you could have like Coors Light or something like that.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Silver bullets.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I know that there was a player last year who tried to get a land grant deal and didn't quite get to the finish line. They're definitely keen on that sort of activity. So Luke Whippler also had the bagel deal, endless supply of bagels. So he finds those.
Luke's been
Well,
Niche-
for that
spots.
kind of guy, you got to find the people that want to work with you, but that you use because
Yeah.
that makes sense. Like, hey, I eat here all the time. Let's make a deal so I get it for free now.
I like bagels. Let's go.
Yeah.
Bagels like me.
Everything
I'm
bagels.
Luke Whippler.
The first scrimmage set for Saturday. How intense, how bloody, how important does it need to be?
Well, we'll see, because that's going to be the capstone to this
Hell
week. Oh, yeah. Hell week.
So
Hell
this would
week.
be our Jersey scrimmage. Is that what's saying coming up
Yeah,
Saturday?
that's
Yeah,
like
okay.
their deal. And so
Yeah.
it's the end of this week. Ryan's trying to simulate, get them going, make it tough. I'm curious. Like I think he's going to make it pretty physical and situationally, not crazy, but you look at the areas they struggled last year, stopping the run, and then the other element was like being able to get a yard in third and fourth and one.
So those go really well together. And
Yeah,
let's
that's what I think.
let's go ahead.
You could probably
Let's go ahead and practice this.
We can get a lot of work done in some short yardage
Yeah.
situations here.
Yeah.
First in like
Red zone.
coming out period,
Yeah.
like, all right, we're backed up. We're not going to be dropping back off the 5-yard line. And it's more for, that's obviously an advantage defense, but then you'll go, okay, we'll go goal line on the other side where you need to only get a yard. But we're going to work some of those situations where there's some scheme involved. You want to try to get where you're going, but a coach will tell you, I can draw this stuff up all day. We've got to go execute it.
Isn't this a situation where, as you mentioned earlier, the offensive line depth is so precarious right now? And you have guys that they think can maybe rotate in as that 6 or 7. But beyond that, there's a lot of very unproven depth on the offensive line. Knowing that you have to come out this week and be more physical maybe than you will be 2 weeks from now as you get into game prep, how do you strike a balance between go as hard as you can on Saturday versus these are our 5 offensive line starters and they have to be healthy?
Here's the thing. Would you rather have 5 healthy offensive line starters that you can't get a yard? I mean, at some point, like you've got to
You got to
play
do it.
football.
Yeah, you got to practice it, right?
Because you know what? They're going to be playing on Saturday, September 3rd, out at the shoe, and Notre Dame is going to be gassed up and ready to go. And they're going to be watching that Michigan film, be like, look how we can bully these guys. This can actually happen.
And I think with those numbers, you basically say, all right, we're going to do
Do it smart.
5, 6 of these
Yeah.
plays. We're not going to be here for 20 minutes just smashing heads. We're going to get in these situations. We're going to run the plays that we want to run. Make sure we get them on film. Make sure we can teach and coach after we get back into the Woody Hayes. So I don't think you go and just They just bang our heads against the walls for an hour and a half here.
Yeah.
You know, we want to keep people healthy. We know we only have our 5 guys. We want to get them through this practice, but we also need to get down and dirty and see how they react when they're put in situations.
So I'm saying you do controlled situations, focus on what it is. And so you get a quick whistle and you tell everybody else, we're going hard.
Yeah.
These also are our teammates. Like, you don't need to be cutting each other. Like, go hard.
Keep it clean.
Keep
Just
it clean.
Keep it hard.
That's the biggest thing in the NFL. You'll go really hard. The guys, like, you know how to practice. If you see someone starting to tip, like, and that's where it gets hard at the end of the week. Guys been going against each other. Like, you feel like someone tipping because they got someone behind them. Like, you don't need to roll them up over the pile and hopefully they blow their knee out on the way down. Like, and that happens in games, but you don't need to do that to your teammates.
Yeah, big week, tough week, and a huge scrimmage for Ohio State on Saturday. A lot more coverage coming before we get back here next Monday. I don't know why I said Wednesday.
Whatever day it is.
Whatever day it is. It's training camp. It's already a blur in my mind.
It's Hell Week for us, too.
Yeah, we'll be back here in the Horseshoe Lounge next week. Until then, make sure you come get some mac and cheese bites on Appetizer Tuesday. They are $2 tomorrow. You don't want to miss it. Back next week, Nicole Cox will be joining us. Appreciate Roosters for having us, as always, in the Horseshoe Lounge. That's Jay-Z, Bob, Berman, I'm Austin Ward. We'll see you next week.